back. We're your host, Kaylin and Savannah, and today we're going to hop into our first segment, Beyond the Headlines. Now, today, I have a very exciting subject I want to talk about. We're going to talk about UFOs.
Ooh.
Okay. Time to put on our tinfoil hats and dive in. So basically, before we get started, I want to clarify there's no such thing as UFOs anymore.
What?
Let that sink in. They don't call them unidentified flying objects anymore. And when I say they, I mean the government. Now they call them UAPs, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. So just very interesting. So I'll be referencing everything as UAPs instead of UFOs during this whole episode. So there's something pretty wild happening in the media right now, and not enough people are talking about it, and not enough news stations are covering it. And whether what happened is true or not, I still think the public needs to know about it and educate themselves, because it's still something that's happening in our world right now. Like I said, whether this is true or not, it's still happening. There's still congressional hearings going on about this. There's still news outlets reporting about this. And this man, who is a government whistleblower, who I'm going to talk about in a second, he could get in a lot of trouble if he's lying about all this. So either way, this is going to be the news of the century once these hearings happen. So let's dive into some background info. What do you think?
Sounds good. I know you brought your notes.
Yes, I have my notes right here. Lots of notes.
I'm excited.
With this story in particular, there's so many moving parts and there's so many facts that I want to make sure it's correct. So I will be reading off of my notes just a little bit, just to make sure I'm getting all this info correct.
That's awesome.
So let's dive right into it.
You come prepared.
There is a former government official named David Grusch, who he worked at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. That's a mouthful. As well as the National Reconnaissance Office for the government. And since then, he's gone public and he's making some very interesting claims in the media. He said that in recent years, he worked with the federal government's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, so the UAP task force that used to be a UFO task force, set up to investigate reports of strange flying objects. Woo! So Grusch goes on to say that he's been told of secret government programs that have, quote, intact and partially intact vehicles, end quote, of what I'm assuming to be spaceships of some kind or spacecraft. He does, clarify to say these are non-human origin, which is very interesting. They're made of material and they're not of this world at all. Yeah. Supposedly, allegedly. Yeah. So moving on, he also says that he's been told that both the US government as well as other governments, that they've been engaged in a publicly unknown Cold War to try and get reverse engineering from these crafts. So he's basically saying that the US and all governments around the world know about this, and they're trying to get their hands on it so they can reverse engineer it and get this new technology first, which is super interesting.
I mean, why wouldn't they, if they found something like that?
To me, if this is true, if these are true claims, it makes complete logical sense.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about this in like a reality sense, if there's actual UAP or alien technology out there, and our governments know about it all over the world, why wouldn't they try to race each other to get a hold of that first?
Right.
I mean, think about the space race. I mean, history repeating itself, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think about this so far?
Well, one, the math is mathin'.
Totally.
Interesting. It reminds me of the Bob Lazaro guy that worked on Area 41 or Area 51, whatever. One of the areas.
One of them.
But it's interesting. I'm excited to find out more in depth information about this guy.
Yeah. So moving on, Grusch says that all this information that I mentioned earlier has been illegally withheld from Congress, which is a huge fucking deal. Like,
Oh, wow.
huge deal. So before he left the government in April, which I think is a very interesting tidbit, you know he was getting paid very, very well. You know his benefits, his retirement fund, everything had to have been incredible. He was a very high-ranking official in the government's intelligence community. And he left that back in April. And he had been there for, I want to say, over 20 years. I could be wrong, but it was some time. His credentials are ridiculously good and credible from what I've researched. And just,
did you say
I don't know.
He worked there again?
What was that?
Did you say when this was? Like what year?
Yeah, April of this year that he left and quit the government. Yeah. Okay. So as soon as he quit, he filed a whistleblower complaint with the U.S. government and the intelligence community's inspector general. And he also gave all of this info to Congress in a private hearing. And from what I remember, in that private hearing earlier this year or late last year, I don't remember which one, there was only David Grusch, the whistleblower, the inspector general of the intelligence community, who's a big deal. He's in charge of like all of that. And Congress. And I believe the attorneys. And that's literally it. It was a closed hearing. So David Grusch already did testify to Congress privately about this, as well as the inspector general of the intelligence community. So it is interesting. And there's going to be another hearing coming up soon, and we'll talk more about that towards the end. But in my opinion, if Congress and the inspector general did not find his claims credible enough or his evidence credible enough, I don't think they would have set up this secondary hearing. Like, that just wouldn't have happened. Why would they? It would have been a waste of time. So I feel like they have found enough viable evidence to be like, okay, time for part 2.
You want to listen to what you have to say,
Exactly. So he's also saying, he's also making some other claims. And I'm going to give another quote. So, quote, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you uncover dead pilots, end quote. And Grusch told this to News Nation in an interview. And I think that's very interesting because...
Is he trying to, hint at something there?
Yes, he's very obviously hinting at the fact that supposedly what he claims is that if there are UAPs and they have crashed or failed and fallen, or the government has seen them, recovered them, knows about it, then occasionally there are dead pilots. And by dead pilots, that would mean non-human pilots. Aliens. Whatever that means. But so that's super interesting to me. To me, that's one of the biggest claims, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very fantastical, very unbelievable, but at the same time, if this whole UAP secret government task force thing is real, it's not surprising. And the whole scheme of that.
We're in a day and age now that it was all over the news about UFOs landing in people's backyards, and we were like, you got anything more interesting? Okay.
Basically.
So it doesn't surprise me. It is surprising, but at the same time, it's believable to me, Yeah,
definitely believable. And this is just my personal opinion, and I'm not going to give a lot of this on this podcast, but I feel like a lot of us agree with this. There's so many galaxies, planets, stars out there that we don't know about. The universe is so huge in comparison to little Earth,
Yeah.
Why is it that surprising that there's other dimensions, other civilizations, other, non-humanoid species out there somewhere? It's not that surprising. It really isn't.
Right. And it's not like we've traveled to the moon recently or ever or anything. So possibly, allegedly. So it's we have technology that's like going out there and sending us images and stuff, but
Yeah.
what's that to say what all's out there, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That can only go so far.
Yeah. So the interesting point is that David Grusch admits that he has no firsthand knowledge of any of this. These aren't things that he's seen himself. He
Okay, he was
hasn't
just
seen
told
these
about.
crafts. He heard about them from other respectable, credible people within this government group or that are aware of it in the
Yeah.
government. Um he is basically repeating what other people told him. So some questions that raises are, who are these people? What are their credentials? Are they also going to come forward? Are they telling him the truth?
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
many questions that brings up. And
And
at
did
this
he
point,
name them by name, or was he just like, I heard from the grapevine?
as far as we know, I know he gave the names to Congress in
Okay.
that private hearing.
Gotcha.
Congress has everything that they need to continue to investigate this. The public obviously doesn't, because these
Right.
documents and evidence, they're still classified.
Right.
And I get things get declassified accidentally all the time. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a big case. And if it is
Yeah.
true, it could change the world as we see it. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel like it's so important to be talking about and
Mm-hmm.
educating people
Because
about,
a lot of
because
people, I know there is some people talking about it, but I
Mhm.
hadn't heard anything about it until you
Yeah.
said something. So, and I'm on TikTok too much than that I'd like to admit, you know.
An
So,
unhealthy addiction.
right.
Yeah, people
So,
definitely aren't talking about it enough. I feel like people talked more about the Las Vegas alien
yeah.
incident
Yeah.
than this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm
Divine
not going to go
timing.
into that too much. All you'll have to do is pretty much Google Las Vegas alien or put
Yeah.
it into YouTube and you can see the whole
You'll
story
see
and
the
what
videos.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot going on right now in the whole realm of, UAPs and aliens and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we're in
Yeah.
the year 2023. It's really not that surprising. We're
No,
in the future now, we have
I
AI. We use it
know.
every day. It's
Did you know,
crazy.
not that it's a little random, but we're talking about future stuff. Um, I seen an article, I don't remember who it was from, but I seen one the other day that they've officially made and are testing the first flying car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm
and then
surprised they don't already have that.
I know, but yeah, they're only allowing it to go like 25 miles per hour or something like that.
Mm. How
For
are they gonna
obvious
do that though?
reasons.
Like, are they gonna use like air regulations with those cars too? I
I
don't
don't
know. That's
know. Yeah, I don't
like, how would
know.
they regulate that?
Probably
Anyways,
however they regulate airplanes. I don't, I don't know.
well, there are, like rules and regulations to flying in the air and, watching
Yeah,
out for certain things. And
of
I
course,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't know much about flying, honestly.
Yeah, me neither.
But so a lot of people, like defenders of this case, of the David Grusch case, they defend him by saying, oh, well, this information and this evidence hasn't been released yet, but that's because they're classified, basically, and that it'd be
Yeah.
illegal to release specifics. And they also argue that he handed over all these classified details to the Inspector General and Congress, and it would
Mhm.
be he could get in a lot of trouble for
Yeah, that's
lying
helpful to
under
ask.
oath to them.
And did he have any like
So
NDA or anything like from with his job?
I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look more into
Yeah.
that. I mean,
I
I'm
mean, if he's
sure.
handing over classified documents, then he probably don't care.
Yeah. Well, if it's true, what's been going on in this government task force, unbeknownst to Congress, it's completely illegal for them to be doing this. So, in my opinion, my personal opinion, that would override any sort of NDA or
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, so on June 3rd, Politico magazine published an op-ed by a former Pentagon official named
Mhm.
Christopher Malone, I believe.
Okay.
And Christopher gives this quote in the article. Quote, since AARO was established, which is the Aerial Phenomena Task Force that
Oh, okay.
David Grusch worked on as well, I have referred 4 witnesses to them who claim to have knowledge of a secret U.S. government program involving the analysis and exploitation of materials recovered from off-world craft, end quote. So the fact that
Mhm.
there is a huge Pentagon former official that is speaking out about this, and not only saying that he has one witness, he's saying he has 4 witnesses to back this up.
That's crazy.
That was back in June 3rd. And that was the first little breadcrumb. That was like the first little breadcrumb we got of this. And then 2 days after this article was released, there was a huge exclusive story by The Debrief. And they revealed the new whistleblower, David Grusch. And in that story, David Grusch made 3 distinct claims. And these are very important.
Okay.
The first claim is that the U.S. has UFOs, or UAPs. As I said before, he's been told that the U.S. government has possession of these crafts. He knows specifics, including the names of the people that have been involved in these programs as well. And like I've said, he's given all that information to the right people. The second claim is that there's a secret Cold War going on, as I mentioned previously.
That's the craziest part of all of this to me.
I know. It's not even something that I've really considered when I've thought about the possibility of aliens and UAPs and everything. I've never thought about the Cold War possibility.
Yeah.
But it makes so much logical sense. And it's kind of scary in a way, because it's like, oh my God, could this be going on secretly, like under our noses? I don't know. But the last claim that he makes is that there is a cover-up, obviously, going on. That elements of the intelligence community have illegally withheld information on these programs from Congress. So the authors of this debrief article that came out, they claim that their anonymous sources vouch for Grusch, whatever that means, whatever their anonymous sources are. And they also include an on-the-record quote from a recently retired colonel named Carl Nell, who worked with Grusch. So Nell endorsed both Grusch's character and his claims of the secret 80-year arms race for technology deriving from non-human intelligence. So that's very interesting to me, because this is a recently retired colonel who worked with Grusch firsthand together. And he is vouching for his character as a person as well as his claims. So in David Grusch's interview with News Nation, which is pretty much the first thing that I watched or saw about this whole situation. I don't even think you can find it on YouTube anymore. I think you can find fragments of this interview, and it will be from News Nation. That's the only one that covered it. I believe you can find it for free on the News Nation website, as well as different clips on YouTube. And we might even add in some clips into this episode eventually in editing. But so in his interview, he made an even more startling claim about the uncovered dead pilots. That claim was not present in the initial debrief story. So that was a new revelation when he said that in the interview. Everyone was like, what is he talking about?
Throwing on
like
us
dead
right now.
Pilots, aliens, what? So that was the first time that any of these people or the whistleblower has claimed that the government has seen actual aliens. Or a non-human species. So that was like the biggest, like, oh my God, like this is happening for everyone.
Just a little disclaimer. I'm having real bad allergies and my eyes about to water. I am not crying about aliens.
You're like, oh, the dead pilots.
I can't believe.
I believe.
But I can make a good thumbnail out of that. So let the tears run.
That is true. There you go. But it's super interesting because Grusch also claimed in this interview that Americans may have been killed to protect these programs. And also that the U.S. recovered an alien spacecraft from the fascist dictator Benito Mussolini in 1933. And I've heard rumors about that spacecraft.
I feel like I heard something about that too, actually.
Like supposedly it crashed and the government like tried to cover it up and or the Italian government, and they were able to get access to this like technology and reverse engineer it. So I think it's very interesting that this is coming up again in this case. Because it makes you think, if all this is true, how many of these previous cases
were actually real
UFO sightings or alien abductions were actually real. So
Right.
it's, something to think about. I don't know.
Definitely
But
interesting.
so the government AARO that Grusch was involved in, the program, they
Yeah.
did release a statement pretty much saying that they haven't discovered any verifiable information to support these claims. But I think it's very interesting, and we'll touch on
But
this
they're
later,
the
that
ones trying to like cover their asses, so of course they're gonna
that's
say
what I'm
that.
saying. Why would they say that? But something very interesting to me that we'll cover later on. In their statement, they specifically say that they have not discovered any verifiable information to these claims that involve the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials. And I think that's
Hmm.
interesting because the term extraterrestrials is very specific. And
Yeah.
if anyone knows anything about, aliens and UFOs and like studying them in the past, stories about them, is that there's lots of theories on what they could be. And a lot of people don't believe that they could be from another planet. They believe that it's something else, which we'll be discussing in the conspiracy section of this episode.
Okay.
But I just
Interesting.
think it's interesting that they specifically say extraterrestrial.
I don't know what just fell in here, but
Creepy. They're
anyways.
watching. They're watching. Oh my goodness. So, anyways, what comes next? Well, David Grusch's classified claims will be reviewed by the intelligence communities, Inspector General, and Congress, like before, and a public hearing on July 26th. And I'm 99%
Oh,
sure
soon.
it's going to be open to the public. It will be televised from what I'm hearing. And I believe if it is televised, you can find it on C-SPAN more than likely
Yeah.
for free, or even maybe live streaming on YouTube. I don't know. But I do encourage the public and everyone who, even if you're not that interested in this, you should be watching this hearing. It's going to get
And by the
spicy.
time this episode comes out, it'll be like the day before or something, right?
More than likely. We'll have to do a follow-up on it after it happens,
Yeah.
for sure. Especially if
Yeah.
anything big happens, like any bombs are
Hmm.
dropped. Like, whew,
Oh,
we want to be on
definitely.
top of that. So
Definitely.
stay tuned for the journey, y'all, because there's going to be more coming for sure. And
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure it's not going to be just a one-day thing. I think it's gonna
Oh,
it's
I would
gonna
assume
last
it would be
a bit.
multiple, yeah.
Right. I'm just not sure of the timeline yet. But
Now I
as we
wonder
end
if
off this, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna throw in, I wonder if this will be broadcasted as much as like the Johnny Depp.
Probably not,
I
which
doubt it.
says so much about like
So
where we're at
much.
as a society. Like,
Yeah. Don't be
but
surprised if next week, well, whoever's watching this now, it'll be like tomorrow. Don't be surprised if you start seeing a bunch of random crazy stuff on the news that has nothing to do with the case.
to
Because
distract
I'm
as a
sure there'll be
psyop.
some distractions thrown out there. I'm sure.
Well, I will say also as a side note, David Grusch in his interview with News Nation, he did say that the government is working on a sophisticated disinformation campaign. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that means specifically, but it sounds like there's been psyops and distractions sent out, if
Yeah.
this is true,
Yeah.
allegedly.
This is
But that
what
is what he's
this is
claiming.
what Dave, our homie Dave said, okay?
Oh, homie Dave. So with all this wrapped up, that's all the facts basically. That's pretty much all we know now. Um, like I've told you over and over again before outside of the podcast, there's so many moving pieces here, and
Yeah.
there's so many little details and little facts that tie into this that we could never cover
It's a
in an
huge
episode.
loophole.
There's just too much. So as always, we encourage everyone to do your own research,
Yes.
look up this information,
Form your
stay
own
informed,
opinions.
stay educated, and above all, don't panic.
Yeah,
Just don't
definitely.
do it. But to wrap this up, this section, and from what I'm seeing, there are three possibilities with this whistleblower campaign happening. The first possibility is that David Grusch is straight up telling the truth. And that,
Yeah.
like I said, that would change the world. That would change everything as we know it.
And you said this is wrapping up our first segment?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then the second possibility is that he's telling the truth as he believes, because trustworthy people close to him told him this information. So then if
Sure.
he were lying in this case, it wouldn't technically be his fault.
Right. He's
It
just
would
spreading
be
the
those
information he was
people.
told.
Right. He was just repeating the information, and it shifts the motive off of him and onto these people. And lastly, the last possibility here is that he's a part of a disinformation campaign and he's lying. And the government is using him as a psyop.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of possibilities here, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot going on. Well, actually, not a lot of possibilities, just 3 possibilities. But it's pretty crazy to think, like, out of those 3, one of them has to be true.
And my thing is, if he is, like, just placed for a distraction, why is the Congress so interested?
Exactly.
That's the one thing that's not adding up for me for that theory.
Yeah. And
So
also, they're the ones, Congress and the Inspector General, they're the ones that have seen this evidence. I don't know if they've heard from other witnesses yet or not. I'm not sure. They know the names, like they've named the names. They've verified everything. They've seen the documents, the classified documents, and any other evidence that they have. So it's, at this point, it's up to Congress and up to the Inspector General to find out the truth. I love that they're doing a public hearing. To me, that shows that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Finish that thought.
I was going to say, to me, that really shows that they are taking this seriously and they're taking transparency seriously to the public. Because if this has been going on behind the scenes, this secret task force, and they've been hiding it from the public, hiding it from Congress and other factions of the government, then that's a huge crime against humanity.
Yeah,
a huge crime.
For sure. I was just going to say, I wonder why the first one wasn't public, but it was probably because they were like, well, let's see what's going on here. Like, you know, they probably didn't want to make it public until they knew what was going on.
Definitely. And from what I've heard, it was very exclusive and very, very private. So, and I don't think we even knew about that hearing.
Too.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
And that's, once again, my opinion is that if this is not true, why would David Grusch abandon his incredible job?
Yeah.
Put his life in danger, as well as his family and his friends and other people involved.
Yeah.
And also possibly have to deal with the penalty of perjury against Congress if this is all true, and any other consequences, the public turning on him and, all that.
Everything that comes
to me, like, the risk do not outweigh.
He's basically making a sacrifice for humanity.
Basically, if it's true. So we're going to dive into our next section then, called Behind the Curtain, and this is where we dive in deeper into conspiracies. I figured since we're talking about this subject, we may as well continue it a little bit in more the conspiracy realm than factual. So I wanted to talk about, earlier I mentioned that AARO in their statement.
Yeah.
They said that they mentioned extraterrestrials in their statement. There's no evidence of reverse engineering from extraterrestrials, which I think is interesting. But like I said, there are many other possibilities of what these could be. So I wanted to dive a little deeper into that today. Put on our tinfoil hats again. So I'm going to go through them one at a time. The first possibility is that if there are aliens or non-human species, they are using the ocean to hide or live.
Oh my gosh, that's a conspiracy I've been so interested in. Because I heard, I don't remember where I heard it. A lot of people believe that our International Space Station and space itself is in the ocean.
Yeah,
and that comes along with like the flat earther thing a lot of the times, because they're like, okay, if the earth is flat and we've never been to space, then why are they lying to us about it? So I don't know. I will say I've always felt like NASA, and this is technically a personal opinion, but don't make me seem crazy. But I've always just felt like there's a reason the ocean is so undiscovered. Like, why is 95% of our ocean, why hasn't it been discovered yet?
Could it just be that we haven't had the time with the proper technology yet?
Maybe. It definitely
Because
could be.
I feel like we've only had technology to really discover it without people for what, like 60 years,
Yeah.
50 years,
But
maybe a little bit more.
if they had the technology to go to the moon,
Mm-hmm.
why
Yeah, I
don't
see
we
what you're
have the
saying. Then why
technology
can't they
to
just?
go in the ocean?
Yeah, that
Which
is
I
true. That
know
is
there's a
true.
difference, like within pressure and things like that. I mean, look at the
Mm-hmm.
submersive, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just interesting, and sea creatures are so crazy looking.
Oh my
Like
gosh, I know.
when I look at octopi, I'm like, that's an alien.
No, Ricky and I were watching this video the other day on YouTube, and it was pretty much a detailed HD video of oceanic creatures in the Mariana Trench,
Oh yeah,
which is supposedly like what the deepest part
yeah,
of the ocean like ever. And you're seeing all these deep sea creatures, and they do not look real. They look like CGI, like futuristic creatures.
yeah.
It's
It's
very
crazy.
creepy. And the fact that
Weird.
they're made to adapt in that environment is just insane to me.
Yeah,
Like they've evolved to like adapt properly to living in such a dark, desolated, isolated area with like little to
yeah.
no food. It's just crazy to me. So who
It's
knows
definitely
what's
very
out there?
possible. Yeah, and I mean, even if it's not the International Space Station, like I'm
Mhm.
sure we have some sort of station underwater. Like I'm sure we
Yeah,
do somewhere, you know.
right. It's definitely a
Especially
possibility.
with them like testing like nukes and stuff like that in the ocean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Well,
know.
one thing I've seen is that, or a theory that I've seen floating around that has to do with this, is that, well, first of all, there's supposedly a lake in Russia that is like the deepest lake ever recorded, and it hasn't even been
Hmm.
fully explored or discovered. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so it's like not only the ocean, but any body of water,
Yeah.
which I didn't even consider that.
Yeah,
And
that's
on
true.
top of that, there have been government videos released, from what I remember, and they're literally objects, like flying objects, coming up out of the water
Yeah.
and like skimming the surface of the water, but at speeds like way beyond what we're capable of. And I've
Yeah.
seen actual videos of that, and I don't know if they're real or not. I don't know if they've been manufactured or, messed with,
Yeah.
but they look pretty realistic to me.
I forgot who it was, but I seen a video and I think it was a scientist,
Hmm.
but I don't remember who he was. I wish I did. But he was talking about how he used to discover the ocean, and one
Hmm.
time he was in a submarine and they saw, like, they were deep in the ocean and they saw what looked like another body of water within the water. Like
Whoa.
like as if you were looking at a pond or something, but in the water, like
So
deep
almost
in
like a
the ocean.
mirage, like on
Yeah.
the. I'm the type of person, and like I said, we don't really want to talk about our personal opinions too much on this podcast, just
Yeah.
because how people can be.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think it's
When it comes to
that out.
conspiracy things, at least.
Exactly, exactly. But it's still like fun to theorize, like if this is
Yeah.
real, what is it? You
Or just
know?
talk about like different theories we hear around that are
Yeah,
interesting, you know?
exactly. So the next thing that they could be that I've read about is a future race of humans from Earth that have time traveled.
Hmm.
And they're coming back to basically like monitor us and help us get further on in technology and in society, which I think is
Yeah.
very interesting. I don't know. I
That
don't know
is
what I think
interesting.
about that. But it's
Yeah.
definitely like I'm not writing off any of these possibilities if any of
Yeah.
this is real, because if this
Who
is
knows?
real, it, it's open for anything at
Yeah,
that point.
exactly. And if
But
UAPs, right? That's what they're called. UAPs.
UAPs, yeah.
Okay. If those are real,
Mm-hmm.
which, the government has already released files, um,
Mm-hmm.
showing that UFOs at least are real. So
Right. Right.
if
We just don't
if
know what they
those
are.
right, if those are real, then it's like it opens up the possibility to so many things that we haven't even thought of as being a possibility
Yeah.
before.
Like, maybe they're not spacecraft, maybe they're time travel pods. I mean, we
Yeah, you
don't
never
know.
know. Yeah.
They might not be coming from space, they could be coming
And
from a portal, a different dimension, a wormhole. I don't
right.
know.
And I mentioned Bob Lazaro.
Mhm.
He said basically he worked on one piece of the craft
Mhm.
and they never let you always work in a buddy system and they never
Mhm.
let they never let one person work on the whole craft. And
Mm.
they never let them understand they were only allowed to work on what they were assigned to work on, the piece, because they didn't want anyone knowing too much information or putting two and two together or figuring it out to release to the
Mm.
public. So
That
that's
makes
why they
sense.
didn't really have like an NDA, because I mean the
They
only
wouldn't know, they wouldn't have the full picture,
full proof
so
of
what would
picture,
there be to
yeah.
talk about?
And he said that he
Interesting.
actually saw one of the crafts.
Okay.
He got to peek his head inside, and when he peeked his head inside, he described it as being nothing like we would ever have thought. Like on the outside, yes,
Mm.
it looked like how we would picture like the normal like UFO, but
Mhm.
on the inside, it was designed for someone like 3 feet or under.
Mm.
Like the chairs were small. It was only like 3 feet tall, the whole aircraft. And
That's
he's
very
like, the whole
interesting.
thing was like so futuristic. Like screens, but not. Like, I don't know. He described it
You
as
know,
so weird.
that's so interesting to me hearing that. And I did hear that account before. I think I watched his interview like a while ago in preparation for this.
Yeah,
And it's interesting because of all the reports you hear,
yeah,
almost all the reports of like alien abductions allegedly, or people spotting aliens on Earth or
right.
some kind of non-human species, they almost always describe them as being over 6 feet tall
I know. So that was
and like really
interesting to me.
tall. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
I mean, who's to say there's not different species?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So
I mean,
I'm
there could
sure it's
be
not one. I mean, come on now.
right, there's no way, there's no way.
Yeah.
Another option is that they're advanced AI,
Hmm. That
which
is
with
interesting.
AI, the way it is now and developing as rapidly as it is now,
And
I
the
mean
guy that I gotta pull up his name. I'll try to insert a picture of him or something when we edit.
okay,
But it's a guy that worked for Google. I don't know if you heard about that. But
I
he
didn't.
actually worked for Google and he quit because of his fear of AI and how he said they're not controlling it and it's going to take over. So he had to
Wow.
quit and get out of there.
Wow. You know,
Yeah.
I have such a love-hate relationship with AI. Like,
Same.
I
Same.
I can see like it, so I use it for work
Yeah.
sometimes, and I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
And I basically use it as a time-saving tool to help me with this small task that would otherwise take me way too much time, so
And
I can
brain
focus
power.
on bigger picture and brain power and
Yeah.
creativity, so I can focus on more bigger picture items for work. So for
Mm.
me, it's been a lifesaver in that way, but I can also see how it could evolve to something really
In the
terrible
wrong
and
hands.
toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
It can be great in the right hands, but
Right.
that's not really
So
reality normally.
the next thing that they could be is interdimensional, which means that they're
Hmm.
from another dimension basically and they're traveling
I could
between
see that for
dimensions.
sure.
Yeah. I'm very interested in the
Especially,
interdimensional theory.
yeah, and a lot of recent UFO sighting videos I've seen, or UAPs,
Mhm.
um, it's been like they're in the sky and then they'll be like,
Mhm.
hold on, let me go in the camera. They'll be like here and then it'll just be like zoop, zoop,
And just
and
disappear
they'll like just disappear.
or teleport somewhere basically is what it looks like.
Exactly. So that's interesting.
And I've always been interested in that. Like I'm interested in like other dimensions,
Yeah, same.
interdimensional travel, and like time travel. Because I used
Yeah.
to be like a huge Doctor Who fan. Oh my god, I was obsessed with it.
Have
So
you
like
watched
to
any of the new
me,
ones?
yeah, I don't know. It kind of went downhill, honestly. It went
Yeah.
downhill after like I want to say the 12th Doctor, Peter
Yeah.
Capaldi, and it was already kind of going downhill before then. I was a
Mhm.
diehard fan though, like
Yeah.
diehard. And so it always interested me in the possibility that, we could time travel and there could be other dimensions. So, I don't
Yeah.
know. And then another, I'd say the last theory, is that they're actual extraterrestrials, which means they're from another planet or galaxy, and they're just creatures just from another planet, like us. And there's a few different theories within that one. One of them is the zoo theory, which is that they've basically created us or planted us here.
Oh, I did hear about that.
They keep showing up periodically to check on us and see how we're evolving and perform tests and blah, blah, blah.
A lot of people, they are, just common, like, stereotypical alien theories are always, they're here to destroy our planet, and they're here as our enemy, basically.
Right.
I don't see that, because if they really are these, like, extraterrestrial beings that are so advanced from us, like, what are they waiting for?
Exactly.
So I don't think it's for, like, harm. I think it's either, like you said, for observation or to help us.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So there's a lot of cool theories out there. I like reading about them on Reddit, honestly. There's a wealth of information and knowledge about UAPs and aliens on Reddit, and it's been so interesting to, like, just dive deeper into it. Even if I don't believe all of them or believe any of it, it's still really interesting.
It's still fun to read.
So moving on to our last segment, which is breaking the stigma, talking about mental health. I figured we can kind of go more into just existential crisis and the purpose of life and everything.
Nice.
Because this whole UAP, alien, other dimension things going on, like,
out in the world.
It's very heavy. And on top of UAPs and aliens, there's a lot of other stuff going on, like we talked about last week, just the economy, the workforce.
But it's not just people in their 20s. Now we're going to include everyone.
Everyone is struggling right now, I feel, in some way or another. And the world is just getting really heavy, and a lot of us are wondering, like, okay, well, why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? What am I waking up every day for?
Right.
And I know I think that a lot. Like, what is...
And it's hard to think, it's hard not to overthink about like the purpose of life. And I think the most important thing is kind of like how you mentioned last week, is just making sure you find little things throughout every day that make you happy, to live in the now, because none of us are doing that. We're worried about what's to come in the future. We're worried about our past issues. We're worried about what's to come tomorrow. But we're never just taking time to enjoy ourselves in the moment. Put your phone down. You don't have to record and take pictures of everything you do.
Yes, exactly.
Which I talk about, like, I do that too sometimes. So I'm trying to be better about it myself. Not taking pictures of my food before I eat. Sitting down without my phone,
It can be okay to do that sometimes. In my opinion, if you're taking pictures still and stuff, like, that can be okay, as long as you're not constantly on social media and constantly interacting with people.
Letting your phone take the moment from you.
Exactly. So if you're doing something, like, let's say, so for example, I'm not on social media right now, as you know, except for, like, Reddit and YouTube, and that's it. It has been the most healing thing for me. Like, I don't regret it one bit. I don't miss it. Like, it has helped my mental health so much. It's helped my body image. It's helped everything just so much. And, obviously I don't take pictures anymore for social media. And it's definitely a different kind of vibe. Like, when we were, Ricky and I, my husband, for anyone who's wondering, we went to the beach for my birthday. And I really didn't take many pictures the whole day. And when I did, it was like, oh, wait, let me take this picture so I can have this memory, so I can remember it.
Oh, and look back different, though. That's different.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, that's the new mindset that I've kind of evolved into since, like, taking a break from social media and trying to be more present, like you said, like, in the day-to-day. Like, I start to, like, forget to take pictures, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that can be hard to do, because you're like, well, why do I need them if I'm not going to post them?
Yeah, but you have to remind yourself it's for memories. It's to look
Yeah.
back on.
That's
It
like
doesn't
when
have
we
to be for.
were in St. Augustine on that like train tour. Like I
Yeah.
was taking pictures every now and then of like beautiful buildings that I saw, but I was
Mhm.
also enjoying the moment and being present in the moment. But the lady
Yeah.
in front of me recorded the whole hour train ride on her phone and only
Mhm.
looked at everything through her phone screen.
I
And I'm like,
know.
ma'am, like you can watch this on YouTube for free. If you're gonna watch it through a
Exactly.
screen, please.
Exactly. And I noticed that a lot with concerts now too.
Yeah.
Like I was watching clips of Taylor Swift, the Eras tour,
Who was it
and
that Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm trying to be better about that.
I was just saying that you look out and this is a stadium tour. It's one of the biggest tours like ever.
Yeah,
And you see out in the crowd and there's just phone
all
lights
phones.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's everyone just recording instead of being in the moment and watching her perform and enjoying their favorite artist and
Yes.
vibing with other people, you know? It makes me sad a little bit.
At least Taylor doesn't pull a who was it, Miranda Lambert? Did you see that?
No.
She's the one that was married to Blake Shelton, right?
Well, I know who she is. I think so.
Well, I'm trying to make
I
sure I
don't
have the
know.
right person before I call her ass out. Well,
So
I'm
Blake
pretty
Shelton's
sure.
ex-wife?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it was Miranda Lambert. And
Mm-hmm.
she was on stage and a fan was like taking a picture and she stopped mid song and said, "It's really disrespectful that you're taking a picture and not listening to my song right now," and went
Didn't
off.
Didn't Lorde do that too? In like a
I
live
don't know, I didn't hear
performance?
about that.
You see that video?
Which, like, I
She like
understand as an artist, it's probably disappointing when you're trying to perform and everyone's taking just selfies and stuff, but like to
yeah.
stop your whole show and yell at them, that's a little extreme. So now everyone's hating on her and they're like, no wonder Blake Shelton divorced her.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
I think that especially like if you have a lot of people at your
Yeah.
concert or your tour or whatever, like
Yeah.
it's understandable and expected that they're going to be recording almost the whole time and taking
Yeah.
pictures everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you need to expect it. Like,
I think she was just like having a bad day and let that get the best of her. I don't know.
yeah, it happens to all of us.
It does. It does. It's
But
different when you're a celebrity though.
oh yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I just, like I said, I feel like it's been a little heavy lately. So I just wanted to talk about just like taking care of your mental health in lieu of, not lieu, but when you're going through an existential crisis, because I go through that a lot, especially in
Yeah.
my 20s. And I'm
Yeah.
sure I'll continue to go through it when I'm in my 30s and 40s and 50, if I live to that age, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's something we're constantly as humans going to have to keep dealing with. And
Yeah.
I feel like all you can do when you're going through that is, like you said, focus on the present, try to live in the moment, not worry about the future, you know. And there's lots of things you can do to calm down your anxiety and
Yeah.
to just balance out your emotions and regulate your emotions. And there's lots of great resources out there on YouTube and articles and everything where they give you basic tips on how to regulate your emotions when you're going through an anxiety attack or you're just really stressed out or you can't stop thinking about, you know, life and what's going to happen in your future. So I
Right.
highly encourage anyone to like look into that because it's been very helpful for me. I mean, even
Yeah.
something as simple as deep breathing, like it makes
Yeah.
such a difference, you know.
I've been working on that with Lana, my daughter, because
Oh,
she's going through her phase of um discovering anger and storming
oof.
off. So,
Yeah.
yeah, fun. But a trick I saw for any, moms or even if you want to do it because I'm not going to lie, it does help.
Yeah.
Is you hold your hand up and you
Okay.
pretend it's birthday candles
Okay.
and you one by one blow out the candles. And it's like helping you take deep breaths, but when you're a kid you don't want to take deep breaths when your mom's like breathe with me. If you're upset you don't want to do that, so it's like a
Yeah.
fun way to incorporate that and incorporate like breath control to calm
I
down.
love that.
Yeah, So
That is
I don't
such a
know.
good
I've done
tip.
it to myself sometimes. I'm like, let me get these birthday candles.
That is such a good tip. The birthday candle tip, everyone. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kaylin. One thing that I do a lot, obviously the deep breathing. But I
Yeah.
like to, if I'm having like an anxiety attack or I'm just feeling very like I can't calm down, even deep
Overstimulated.
breathing. Yeah, one thing that really helps is just like, it sounds stupid and small, but I put my hand to my heart and then I literally will out loud tell myself, like, you're safe, you're loved, you're okay, like, nothing can hurt you. You know, pretty much just like speaking to your
Yeah.
inner child and reminding them, like, sometimes you have to parent yourself
Yeah.
and like remind yourself that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to like
Perfectly normal.
feel overwhelmed and everything, and you need to be like comforting yourself. And
Yeah.
I never thought that would work, but it does.
One trick, this guy I worked with, he was older than me, kind of like a mentor. I loved him. He was awesome. I worked with him at a call center and he had really bad anxiety. And to the point where his doctor, like a year prior to that, was prescribing him, he said he was taking 80 Xanax a week for his anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Now
Oof.
he takes no medicine at all. And the trick
Mm.
he uses is whenever he has anxiety, everyone feels their anxiety in different parts of their body.
Right.
So, like, some people feel it in their chest, like you probably do, since you mentioned you hold your
Mm.
chest. I feel it
Mm-hmm.
in my stomach. So
Mm.
it's like a feeling like when you're a kid and you feel like you're going to be in trouble
That sinking
in your stomach.
feeling.
Yeah. So he
Yeah, yeah,
said
yeah.
wherever your anxiety is, whether it's your throat, your chest, your stomach, put your hand like this, wherever it is, take a deep
Mm-hmm.
breath in and push it down. And he said
Mm.
it really works because it's mind over matter. That's
So
what
you're
anxiety
taking a
is.
deep breath,
You're
you're
starting
putting
wherever
your
your
hand,
anxiety is and you just slowly push it down. If it moves to your stomach, you just take a deep breath again and push it down again until it's gone.
and then you breathe it out, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
And it
I'll have
does
to
help
try
for
that.
me sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
It's a nice extra tip to have whenever it's just a little too overwhelming, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes you need more than one tool to help you get out of
yeah,
that mindset that you're stuck in or
of course.
anxiety attack or whatever. Like, honestly, most of the time, I feel like I need more than one tool to calm me down, you
Have like
know?
multiple levels,
Yeah.
you know.
And sometimes all you can do is cry it out, sleep it out.
Yeah,
Like, and there's
that's
no
the
shame in
biggest thing.
that.
Like, feel your feels.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
a lot of problems like emotionally these days are from people holding back. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you're scared that you're gonna hurt someone's feelings, or you know you're scared that you're gonna overreact, or your emotions are gonna come out like different than you intend them to. One thing
Right.
I learned is that don't be afraid of hurting someone's feelings. Anyone that you have in your life that you love, you're going to hurt them at some point.
Right.
That's just the reality of things. But as long as you don't harm them, that's
Mm-hmm.
what matters. So you have to
Yeah.
put it in the perspective of, if I don't hurt this person right now and hurt their feelings and speak my mind, then I'm going to be harming myself by holding it in and hurting myself,
Exactly.
because it's going to, and then at the end of the day, you're hurting yourself and then you're holding it in. So the next
Mhm.
time they do something that makes you upset, you're just going to explode and hurt them even
Yeah.
more than than you would have if you
Right.
just spoke your mind.
And that can be so hard too for people like me, chronic people
Yes, see,
pleasers that just want everyone to like them and everyone to just like live in harmony and have no
bring the
conflict.
peace.
But the reality is like you said, it's life. You're gonna have conflict. You're
Yeah.
gonna offend someone out there. Someone's not gonna like you. And that's
Yeah.
just the reality of life, unfortunately. And I hate it, but I have to learn to accept that and get used to that.
Yeah.
Because how else am I gonna like survive in this world if I don't accept that, you know?
Yeah.
But
All right.
well, good
Are
talk. I
you
think it's time.
time for shadow work?
Time for shadow work.
Excited.
Do you want to
So,
ask first this time?
sure, I'll go
Or did you
first.
do it last time? Cool.
So, I'm gonna ask, what is your? It's kind of a two-parter like yours.
Okay.
What is your biggest fear that you feel
Okay.
like is holding you back from your life purpose? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you think you can overcome that?
Hmm. I would say that's a good question. Probably fear of failure. And that's part of the
Make
reason why I never started a podcast or a YouTube channel or published any of my books I ever wrote or go for really anything that I want to do, because it's like, oh, well, I'm really bad at consistency. I'm not good at, keeping up with things.
Yeah,
What if I fail and then I look stupid and then I'll be
I feel
discouraged?
that.
So I'd say that's like my main thing. And that's why us doing this podcast and like the YouTube channel is such a big deal for me and like such progress and growth,
Yes, same.
because I'm at the point to where I'm like, okay, but I'm never going to know unless I go for it. What
Yeah,
if it doesn't fail? You know?
yeah,
And even if it does fail, like what is failure defined as,
right,
Like
exactly. At the
even
end of
if
the
you
day,
and
we're
I
getting something out of this, so it doesn't, wherever this goes is how it's meant to be. That's how I look
exactly,
at
that's
it.
exactly how I feel. And what was the second part again?
What do you think you can do to overcome that fear?
Oh, well, actually, I think I just already answered that
Yeah,
by doing
pretty
this
much.
podcast and YouTube channel with you. And I think too, like having a schedule like we do and like we're
Yeah,
working on,
and holding
I
each
feel
other
like that
accountable.
really, we're holding each other accountable. It's giving me deadlines, which that also holds me accountable,
Yes,
like at work and
same.
everything.
And a
And it gives
routine.
me and a routine, and it gives me something to look forward to. So I feel like I could get into the habit of this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Same. It's just going to get easier as we keep going, once we get used to
exactly.
things. I feel like we feel, to me at least, I don't know how you feel. I feel like even though it's only our second episode, I feel much more comfortable already. Like
Yeah.
last
Same.
week, I felt a little nervous at first. I was worried about
Mhm.
like, how do I look? But now I just feel comfortable. I know how much I loved our last episode.
Yeah.
It passed my expectations.
Mhm.
So I'm excited for what's to come.
I think what it comes down to is if we're happy with this content that we're putting out, if we're happy with the information that we're giving out,
Yeah.
then that's all that should matter.
Yeah,
As long as we
exactly.
feel like we're like giving some sort of positive impact into the world, even if it hits just what 5 people, that's all that
Yeah.
matters. 'Cause
I'd
positive
rather have a
impact is
small number that support us than a
Mhm.
large number of people that are bots or,
Yes,
just don't even really watch our content. They just followed and then they just, I'd rather hold you
exactly.
guys' attention and,
Yeah,
we want to also incorporate things that you guys want to see too. So
of course.
it's not all about
Ultimately,
us all the time.
yeah, ultimately, we're working on building a brand and building a community. And that
Yes.
community includes you guys. And you
Yeah.
guys are vital to the community even happening and
Yeah.
existing. So if you're listening and supporting, thank you so much.
Yes.
That means
Thank
the
you. Thank you.
world
Thank
to us.
you.
And continue doing little things that can help us, like liking our videos and
Yep.
watching it all the way through on Spotify and subscribing to us, following us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Shameless little plug before asking you your question. But so my question is it might be a little complicated to answer, and I'm sorry for that.
That's okay.
But I know you can do it. So basically, and I know this is pretty generalized,
So basically.
but right now, like in your life right now, in this like time that you're
Okay.
in, this era, whatever you want to call it, what do you consider to be your life purpose? What gets you up every day out of bed and just doing what you do?
Being a mom.
Oh, I love that answer. I
If
love that answer.
anything, if all else, that's my reason. I mean, obviously I want to be
Well,
more than just a mom. Like I want
well,
to
it's
have
okay though.
I want to find myself also. Like I don't want to like every time someone says, "Oh, describe yourself," or I start a job and they're
Mhm.
like, "Give us 3 facts about yourself," or like introduction games. It's always like, "Well, I'm a mom." And that's very much me at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but I still want to have like fun things about me that make me unique and that separate me from being a mom. So lately, not only that, because that's a given, but
Mhm.
lately it's being very inspired, finally feeling like I'm figuring things out of what I want to do to make myself happy and not just what
Mhm.
I need to do to survive. So when I wake up, I'm not like, oh, I gotta go do this thing that I don't like to do for 10 to 12 hours. And, you know, which I understand that's not everyone's reality, you know. It's still important to work and save money and make money. I'm not condoning sitting around for by any means. But, you know, having new goals and having new inspirations of things that I want to do and finding myself is definitely one of the things that keep me going for sure.
I love that. Just like always wanting to discover yourself and know yourself better. I think that's really important. I feel like I can relate to that a lot. And also just like going back on your comment about motherhood and everything, I feel like our culture and like society today looks down a lot on moms, which makes me really sad because
Especially
to
single
me, like,
moms.
especially single moms, yeah. And it hurts me because I get like, no, we shouldn't force all women to confine to one standard and just be moms and wives and homemakers and that's it. But there are some women out there that do just want that, like me, for example. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing shameful about that.
No.
And you got to think like if it weren't for moms, society wouldn't exist
at all.
At all. There wouldn't be anyone else. We
and
have
back
moms
in the
to
day,
think
that was normal. That was normal to just want to be a mom and be a wife.
Yeah.
So, and I understand today's society is different, you know?
Yeah.
But as long as you're providing for yourself and your kids, husband, whatever family, you know?
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with taking some time to discover yourself and do things that make you happy. Because, like we talked about last week, this world is short. You never know. Tomorrow's not promised. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or, you know, your circumstances. Try to find little things that make you happy every day.
Yeah. And I feel like all of what we said and, you know, the little things and everything, your reason, find your reason.
Yes.
Your reason that you get up every morning. And that should help you along your journey when you're dealing with the existential crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one way to ground yourself is just think back and journal or say to yourself your reason. And that should bring you back to reality.
It doesn't have to be the same every day.
No. You know? Yeah. I'm sure you can think of multiple reasons. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
A thing that helps me, especially because I'm not a morning person, I'm more likely to get up early if I'm excited to get up.
Yeah.
So trying to plan things that I'm excited to do to begin my day has helped. Because it's like, oh, now I get to get up and do this fun thing that I can't wait to do, like this podcast.
Right. Even if it's something like small, like, oh, I'm going to make my new tea that I bought yesterday.
Or whatever. Restart my new book or just whatever it is. Like if you have an exciting reason to get up and you don't put your least exciting things as far in the day as you can. You know, or at least that's my motto. Like, I don't want to wake up and immediately clean or wake up and immediately go to work even. Like, I'm not the 9 to 5 girl. At least, if anything, I'm overnights girl. Have fun in the day, work at night.
That's I would say my 2023 motto overall is balance. That's my word for the year. Just balance in everything. Work, balance in exercise, balance in I know it's really hard, but it's important so you don't get burnt out, and it's important when you're navigating an existential crisis.
Very, very.
But I feel like we're ready to wrap things up. This was a great conversation.
It's been great. It's been fun.
I'm looking forward to updating you all when the hearing comes out. Lots of things happening.
Yeah, and tune in for the hearing too. We'll try to insert some information in our description or something on where you can find it.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you guys again so much for watching and tuning in for another episode. Episode 3 coming soon. We appreciate the support.